Welcome to Slay, the podcast where we dive into all aspects of female health, fitness, and productivity. I'm your host, Louise Hazel, and in today's episode, we're going to be exploring the topic of gym etiquette. Have you ever found yourself feeling out of place in the gym, not quite sure whether you're doing something right or doing something wrong? Well, we totally get it. The gym might not be your thing, but if you want to make progress and start feeling more comfortable in the gym this year, then this episode is for you. Now, joining me today is my partner in crime, my husband, Eric Strangis. And as two of the world's best trainers, we've literally seen it all. And we're here today to reveal the 10 gym fails to avoid in 2024. Eric, gym etiquette. This is a big one, isn't it? Especially at the top of the year, with so many new people coming to the gym, new members that haven't been in a while. Like, I want you to think back to a time of your most epic gym fail. Like, it might not have been last week, but when was there a time when you felt kind of like the outsider or the newbie or in a new space and uncomfortable?
Yeah,
Tell me what happened.
Anytime you walk into a gym, I feel like you feel like a newbie, but I can talk about gym etiquette if I may for a moment. When I was probably about 10 years ago, when I still wore headphones when I worked out, because I don't anymore, I was doing some bench press, and in between sets, I sat up to rest. And during that time, someone had come and pulled the weight off of one side of my bar. So when I laid back down to pick the bar up, I unracked the bar, and one side just like completely fell to the side and then catapulted the other way. And I almost like killed like 7 people.
What on earth? Like,
Insane.
how did that even happen? I'm confused.
I had my headphones in, so I didn't hear it. And some guy just literally like walked up and pulled the weights off to use for his own bar.
That's outrageous.
Insane.
Do you feel like he punked you? I feel like he punked you.
I'm not entirely sure, but I kind of like after it happened, I was obviously so shocked because it happened so fast and the bar's on the ground and everyone's looking at me. And some other dude walked over and was like, "Oh yeah, that guy like grabbed the weight off the bar." I'm like, "Well, first of all, you couldn't have told me before," but I got him back later.
What did you do to him later?
Well, there was only
This is the real story. Come on, Eric.
Because
if I know my husband, he is the king of petty. He does not serve his vengeance hot. He serves it icy cold. What happened to you?
Well, so there was only one squat rack in the gym. So this thing was like gold, right? Because everyone's waiting in line to go squat. So he was like waiting for quite a while later in the session. And I saw him waiting, and the person was about to wrap up, and he kind of turned his head. So I just walked straight up to the bar, but I loaded the bar and just started doing curls in the squat rack, which you could do anywhere in the gym. But I was like just standing in the squat rack, and I took my time. Didn't even have curls on the program.
What a savage.
You know what I mean?
What a savage. Now, like, my first introduction to the gym was the High Performance Center in Birmingham, which is quite an intimidating place because this is where, like, Olympic medalists and world record holders were training. When I first turned up, I was like 17. I'd been lifting weights for like 5 minutes. And I can remember, like, the key in our gym was, it was a very small gym. It was like 1,500 square feet. Yet we were like 12 athletes all sharing the same space. And so you just did not, if someone was using the platform, you didn't use the platform. You had to wait. And I didn't realize that there was some major gym hierarchy going on. And there's little old me, like, new to the game. And there was another heptathlete who shall not be named, but a senior, level, Olympic level heptathlete. And I can remember thinking, oh, I'll just, pop up to the bar and start warming up with it middle of a session. And my strength and conditioning coach at the time was like, yeah, that's a good Lou, but that's her platform. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it wasn't until then I realized that gym etiquette was really a thing. Like, allow someone, especially in the high performance center and in that environment where, races are won and lost in like a 1/10 of a second, giving people their own personal space and stuff like that was just so important.
Yeah.
But not just that, egos, like, who, does one of the Olympic medalists want like the up and coming athletes in her space? Absolutely not.
Gotta respect the alpha.
You gotta respect the alpha, and you have to know, I think, as an athlete, that your time will come.
Yeah.
But not necessarily on day one of the gym.
I love it. Did she say anything to you?
No.
She didn't check you.
She didn't check me, but she continued to check me for the rest of her 10-year-long career. So let's not it's not like I didn't suffer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But as she started to retire, I kind of started to get my own back and, speak up a little bit.
Did you ever get your own platform?
100%.
There you go.
And then the young ones had to wait.
That's right.
Every dog has its day, let's say.
Father time's undefeated.
Yeah. So, Eric, I feel like we're going to agree. We've got like a good 10 to 14 points here that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I want to go in with the biggest one, like the number one thing when it comes to gym etiquette. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. This transcends languages. It transcends continents. It needs no explanation, right? Number one is clean up your equipment. If you took it out, if you set it up, if you touched it, then put it back. Now, in the UK, we used to have this game of like, you touched it last. So, when you're like a kid or whatever and you're having to tidy up, if you touched it last with your siblings, you're the one that has to put it away or clean it up. The same thing goes for the gym, does it not, Eric Strangis?
I agree. And I've learned this lesson the hard way. As a coach, I accidentally left some weight on the bar, and you came in and you were the first one in the gym the next morning. And you were super pissed that I had left some 45-pound plates on the bar and you had to clean them up at 5 a.m. So I learned this lesson the hard way. This is one that can divide households. Absolutely. So you got to make sure you get it right.
Absolutely. Put that in the prenup.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. But yeah, I think when it comes to being in the gym, doesn't matter whether you're new, old to the gym, whatever, first and foremost, you gotta put those weights away. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to come as if, they're the first person there to touch that piece of equipment. That's just nice. Do you know what I mean? That is just being polite. And as a Brit, oof, I was in London, actually, obviously, we were in London over the Christmas holidays, and where we were staying had a gym, and every morning I would come down to 400 pounds on the bar. Some guy every single day would leave all of the weights on the bar and I'd have to strip them off before I could start my session. And I thought about getting up 30 minutes earlier, and then I remembered I was on holiday.
It was definitely an American, because all the Brits stand, you're going up the escalator, all the Brits stand on the right-hand side so that there's space to go up the left.
We're extremely regimented. If there's one thing we know, it's etiquette.
That's what I'm saying. It definitely wasn't a Brit who didn't clean up their equipment.
Correct.
That's right. So Americans, we must clean up our equipment. If you touched it, if you picked it up, you got to put it back.
Or stay out of hotel gyms.
Yeah. It also just makes it a much easier environment to work out in. You can see the space and the places that aren't used. It's just such a better environment to train in.
Here for it. Here for tidiness. We'll never not be here for tidiness.
I love it. Okay, so number 2, rule of gym etiquette. Don't stand in front of the dumbbell rack to perform your exercises, because then no one else can access the dumbbells.
This is a brutal one.
This is my biggest pet peeve.
I've seen this so many times at the gym that we go to. And the interesting thing the last time I saw it was, it was a guy, and he didn't look like an inexperienced gym goer. I just can't understand the mentality of someone who picks up 2 dumbbells and then just shifts back an inch and then just starts going at it.
Oh, I get it.
What is it? What's that about?
It's the gym version of man spreading. Like a man who sits on the subway and just opens his legs super wide. I actually sat next to a dude on the plane on the way home from our vacation who was leaning up against me. And I could so he's just man spreading. So this is the gym version of man spreading. Guys will walk up, they'll grab some 20-pound dumbbells, maybe some 25s that are too heavy for them, but they want to show the world that they can do it. So they grab them and they stand right up, almost chest to the dumbbell rack, and they start doing lateral raises.
It's always lateral raises.
Right?
Why is it lateral raises?
And inevitably, the man has an 8-foot wingspan. So he's taken from the 5s, if you run down the rack all the way to the
35.
40s, and he's just got his arms out flying, and you're ducking, diving, you're doing the limbo, trying to get some dumbbells to pick them up or put them back down. It is my biggest pet peeve. I can't stand it.
What are we going to, what could we do as a collective nation against lateral raisers who approximate the dumbbell rack, like all up on the dumbbells. I don't know what to do. Maybe in national, maybe when they send those alerts out on the phones and they take over your whole phone and it's like,
yeah.
Maybe we could do that next time. Maybe we could just send those out like nationwide.
That's it. Sensors.
Statewide.
Sensors, alerts on the phone, national emergency. Everyone's phone in the gym's going off. Someone's standing in front of the rack.
Oh, brutal.
It's crazy.
Right. I've got a really good one. Number 3. One of my pet peeves is the bench press. And if you ever look at a bench press, notice where everybody places their head, it's always a really greasy patch. And I'm like, whenever I go and hit the bench press, I'm like, yo, I'm putting a towel down, you know? It's because I've seen what goes on in the gym. Nobody cleans down the equipment in between their workouts. Nobody does it. This is a well-known fact. Like, if you do it, congratulations, but nobody does it. So, where possible, I would say for your own benefit, as opposed to anybody else, if you know what I mean, put a towel down. Like those benches are probably some of the biggest super spreaders in the world. Would you say?
I mean, what do you think that spot is? Is it hair
grease?
Is it hair grease? Is it hair
gel?
Is it just worn down? No one knows, and that's the thing. Put a towel down.
Exactly. No, I'm not trying to run the risk.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to run the risk, for real. And then I think the other thing is, the other thing that just winds me up, number 4, finding dirty towels around the gym. Now, this is not an issue in our gym because our clients are clean, squeaky clean.
That's right.
And so, they always pick up their dirty towels. Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, give me your towel. They're like, no, I'll do it. Because there's just an awareness of sweat on a towel and someone else having to handle that. But in the big box gym that we attend, the amount of times I just see towels just strewn here, strewn there, left here, left there. And I don't know whether it's an intentional thing or people just, you know what I mean, are just sloppy. Like the idea of somebody having to pick up your sweaty towel, whether it's sweaty or not, just the genuine thought of it just grosses me out.
Well, I think what happens is sometimes people misplace their towel and then they're not sure if it's theirs or someone else's.
So then they don't want to touch it.
Yeah, they don't want to touch it and they don't want to pick it up. But where I used to, my first job in a gym, I had these floor shifts. And so part of my floor shift was going around and keeping the gym tidy.
Brutal.
And you'd be shocked at how many dirty towels there are around everywhere.
How many dirty towels do you think you touched a day?
I can't even imagine, but my immune system would tell you that I was probably touching way too many because I was getting sick way too much, and it's got to be because of those dirty towels.
Super spreaders.
That's right. Gloves required. So number 5 for gym fails to avoid in 2024 is this. If someone is struggling, you want to be prepared to spot them. Don't be that person who looks the other way when someone's trying to squeak out that last rep or two.
That was me today.
Yeah.
I hate to admit it. Go on.
And more importantly, this is actually how you and I connected in the gym and are now married.
Yes, it was. Eric, do you want to tell that story?
Louise knocked on my door and was like, hey, because at my office in the gym, and she was like, hey, can you come give me a spot? And from there, love grew.
Do you want to know why I knocked on your door?
Why was that?
Because there didn't look like, to me, that there were any capable, competent trainers on the floor at that moment that could adequately spot the amount of weight I was lifting.
You're gonna hurt
I was
some
shifting
feelings.
some pounds. No, it was a bit of both. I was like, there's just no way the girl at the time, I was like, there's no way she's going to know what to do if I drop this. And it was a significant amount of weight. And the other part of me just wanted to chat you up.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Gym etiquette. Do not chat up the trainers. They're there to work.
That's
unless
right.
you intend on marrying them.
Then it's acceptable.
Exactly.
Yeah, same thing. If you work at a gym, you're not allowed to hit on or date anybody unless you marry them.
100%.
Yeah, it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But also, you want to know how to spot someone. I think that's a good lesson to learn is like, how would you spot someone on a bench press? How would you spot someone on a squat? Like learning those little lessons that someone can help you and you can help them, I think is a great thing to take into 2024.
Okay, so let's just throw this out there because I feel like there's a really good piece of information here. I'm struggling on the bench. Where are you going to spot me?
Okay, if it's a barbell bench press,
Yeah.
I'm going to spot you from the middle of the bar. Okay, if I'm capable of assisting at that weight that you're utilizing. So I usually take one overhand grip and one underhand grip, and I gently guide up. Now, when you're spotting, you don't want to go for someone who's struggling and they're kind of like moving really slow, trying to squeak out the last maybe half of that repetition. You don't want to just take the bar and pick it up really fast. You want to give them just enough so that they can smoothly continue to press at that speed until the top.
I always say fingertips. One of the cues that I'll always give if I'm spotting in the gym is like your bar, your bar, your bar, your bar. So they know that they're doing it themselves. And that I think just also they know you're there to support. They know you're there if they feel like they can't make it, because they'll normally give out and then you take the load. You start to feel the heaviness come back down.
Yes.
But sometimes people could just be working their way through. Okay. That's barbell, dumbbell.
Okay, if it's a dumbbell bench press,
Yeah.
this is a common misnomer, if that's the correct word, or maybe a misunderstanding, is a lot of people will spot a dumbbell bench press and they'll help someone's elbows. But what happens if you help someone's elbows is oftentimes those dumbbells can then fall in on someone's face because their triceps have fatigue. So you actually want to spot someone from the wrists.
Absolutely.
Right? If you assist them from the wrists, you wrap your hands around their wrists and then same thing, help guide them up and in. That can help them finish the rep and do it in a safe way.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love that for you. Love that. I actually I did watch somebody struggle in the gym today. Do you remember I told you about Abdul?
Yes.
I told you about my friend Abdul, my new friend Abdul for 2024. Now, there's this kid in our gym, and I've been keeping my eye on him since about, I reckon, November. When I started to do like my box jumps in the gym, I noticed there was another kid in the gym who had mad hops, like a wicked athlete. And actually today I approached him in the gym and I said to him, long jumper? I didn't even say hello. I just said, long jumper? He said, oh yeah, I used to long jump. And I was like, yeah. He's like, how could you tell? I was like, yeah, I've seen your hops. And I get chatting to him. I'm like, so how much you jumping these days? He said, oh, about 48. I was like, oh, that's like, I thought he was going to be a bit higher. That's basically what I was able to max out at last year. I said, okay, Abdul, when are you doing your sessions this year? I'm like, Wednesdays? He's like, yeah, I'll do them when you're doing them. And I'm like, good. I said, I'm your competition this year, just so you know.
You always need a nemesis.
I always need a gym nemesis. Now, that's not the story. He then went on, I was like, listen, get back on with your session. I want to keep you. But he then proceeded to, he was bench pressing 80 pounds. Now, the dude is like my kind of height, little bit more muscly than me. He was bench pressing like 80 pounds from a hollow body position. And he did 3 reps. He was about to do the 4th. And I just sat there watching him. And he failed the 4th. But I realized I could have helped him. But then I realized he's my competitor.
That's right.
Exactly.
Always the gamesman.
Poor Abdul. But
Poor Abdul.
that's brutal. I should have helped. But, you know, why would you help your competitors, your rivals?
Yeah, but that's what you do. You're like a keep your friends close but your enemies closer type.
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't be that person.
I hope Abdul's not listening to this. Maybe I'll help him with his upper body, just not his lower body exercises.
There you go.
Now, this is a really interesting one. Actually, weirdly, also happened to me again in the gym today. Number 6, always ask permission if you want to work in on a piece of equipment. So this happened to me today. I was just doing some box jumps, just dusting off the cobwebs, and I was actually supersetting. So I was doing a barbell clean on the platform, and then I was going over to the box. So using 2 different pieces of equipment at the same time, which is easy for someone to think that one piece of equipment is free, especially when it's a box. So normally I put my towel down and someone always comes and picks it up, thinks it's a dirty towel. And today I came back to the box and one of the girls had pulled all the boxes apart and was about, and I was just like, oh, I've got a couple more left. And it was fine. We got to chatting and it was all super lighthearted and cool. And we figured out, you know what I mean, who could use what box. And I'm like, yeah, I've got 2 sets left. You know what I mean? Keep it pushing. But like we said before, with that guy taking your weight, like it is just really polite. And it also gives you the opportunity to interact with another gym member, maybe make a friend, you know?
Yeah, always ask for permission. That's great advice. Another thing that you should always do is number 7. You should always wear shoes, because there is a high likelihood that at some point you are going to drop a weight or a weight is going to fall near you. I have a black toenail that can vouch for this.
What happened to your toenail? I actually never, I knew it would turn black one day, but I never actually realized like what happened.
It was brutal. Mid-session,
Yeah.
there was a weight plate that was standing up on the ground that I was kind of trying to roll back into a position, and it tipped over and just landed perfectly on my toenail.
Oh.
I knew it instantly. Black, blood, the whole thing. It's been like 8 months now. My toenail's still black.
Imagine if you were barefoot.
That's what I'm saying.
That would have been broken.
Yeah, and a lot of people do try to go barefoot in the gym because barefoot training has been popularized now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people will come in like minimalist shoes
Yeah.
or will like take their shoes off and walk around in socks, which hygiene-wise, gym etiquette-wise, I think for the most part you should keep your shoes on unless you're like doing something specific in one area. But that's neither here nor there. Put some shoes on. Protect your toes. You don't want to break a foot. Bad things can happen.
I actually saw on social media recently that there were some college students that were getting banned from the gym from not wearing shoes and just trying to lift and whatnot in socks.
Yeah, it's not as bad as wearing sandals on an airplane, but it's close. You know what I mean?
Oh, but I honestly, we were coming back from travel the other day and I just nudged Eric and I was like, and there was a guy there. We were coming back from London, so it was like 6 degrees or whatever. And he was wearing shorts and like barefoot sandals. I was like, where's he come from? Where's he going? This is a flight. The toilets are never clean. They're small spaces. They're always awash with urine. Like, no, it's just a no.
Yeah.
An outright no.
Yeah, you like if you're on an airplane, socks are required. If you're in a gym, shoes are required.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, also, I just want to point out that, like, we're talking about uniform in the gym, but there's been some funky outfits. Like, was there not a Spider-Man in your gym once?
So it wasn't the outfit of Spider-Man that was the most concerning. It was the behavior of Spider-Man. So yeah, early on when I was working in a gym, a guy came in full Spider-Man costume. And, you know, I saw him, again, I had glass windows, so I saw him kind of walk by the office, and I watched him go in, and I was like, that's a little different, you know, a little different for this clientele.
Was it Halloween? Was it the holidays?
It wasn't anywhere near Halloween.
Straight
Middle
up
of the
Wednesday.
summer, actually. It was quite hot.
Ooh.
So I checked at the front desk. I'm like, hey, just wanted to verify, you know, there's a guy that came in with
that
a Spider-Man
Spider-Man?
costume. Is like, you know, are we good here? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So I went back into the office, and a few minutes later, someone comes and knocks on my door, and they're like, hey, what's the deal with Spider-Man? And I'm like, oh, he just got a costume. They're like, no. What's the deal with Spider-Man? So I popped my head out out of the door, and this dude has positioned himself on top of the pull-up bar. He's sitting on top of the pull-up bar, shooting imaginary webs at people.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
Insane.
Was he a full member?
I think he was on a trial
Was
period,
he
and I don't think he made it through.
Oh, wow.
don't
And
think
was
he
he
made it through.
available for hire?
Yeah, he might be out on the street doing some performances as we speak. It is Hollywood, so it's possible that maybe he was practicing for his career.
Yeah.
There's a chance. Okay.
Specificity.
Yeah, so talking about shoes, talking about socks, where you put your body in the gym is also of equal importance. So number 8, you want to pay attention to where your head goes on the bench. Okay. So, you know, when you're lying down to do a dumbbell bench press or an exercise on the bench, there's like that small portion and then there's a longer portion. Your head goes on the longer portion. Your butt goes on the smaller portion. That little small portion is for your butt because the long portion can actually go up or down. It can go to an incline. It can go upright. The last thing you want to do is put your head where someone else's butt goes in the gym.
This is such a common happening here at Slay. And I don't know whether it's like the left and right thing. So, you know, like I get my left and right muddled up all the time. Apparently it's like a female thing and a wiring thing. I don't know whether it's because when we women see that bench, we're like small head, long body. And so like I see it happen literally at least once a week here in Slay. And I'm just literally like, okay, and I will literally face the bench machine or the bench facing the mirror, and someone will literally turn and face the kitchen. They'll face the complete opposite way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, other way around. It's so weird. It's such an odd phenomenon. And I think it might be just like a brain wiring thing.
I think it's designed too. Like it looks like if it was designed just for like, you know, aesthetic, it looks like, okay, that little portion there is perfectly designed as a headrest, but you don't want to put your head there.
No, you don't.
You know what I mean? You definitely want to put a towel down.
Absolutely.
And you definitely want to put it on the other side.
100%.
Because the grease spot on that part of the bench
is not hair gel.
Okay.
Oh, God, that's funny. I tell you what's not funny. Number 9. This actually, you know, I'm actually probably one of the biggest, what's the word? Offenders when it comes to this one. Dropping your weights in the gym. Because even like today, you know, I'm doing like, you know, Olympic cleans and then I'll drop the weight after. On an Olympic platform. But the amount of times I see people dropping the weights having done like shoulder press or bench press. And this is something that like that one annoys me. Do you know what I mean?
It's a pet peeve?
It's a pet peeve. It's a pet peeve.
Why?
Just because I think of that poor piece of equipment. And also the other thing is people will drop them from, they're not necessarily thinking about where the weight is going to land. So a lot of the time, especially like hex dumbbells like we have here, they're rubberized. So actually they're going to bounce. They're not just going to thud and land in place. They're going to rebound off of rubber flooring and they're going to move. And so I always think like, first and foremost, I don't like loud sounds anyway. I'm like one of those weirdos. I don't like loud clangy sounds unless I'm making the noise. But then I also think from a safety perspective, can easily rebound off, hit a toe, you know what I mean, hit a shin or whatever. Yeah. And like, you know, gyms are places where accidents are really common, minor like little snags here and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just don't like the idea of throwing a heavy weight down on the floor where it's out of control and can ping off in either direction.
Yeah. I also think
gives me anxiety.
I think you really don't like this one also because I do it a lot.
Do you?
Oh yeah, I throw weights all the time.
Oh.
I'm a big weight thrower, which I have, again, little nicks.
It's probably why you got a broken toe.
That's right. A little something on my toe, a little something on my shin, like you said. I've done it all. So I agree with this one. I don't think people should drop weights. I think an Olympic platform is probably the one exception because when you're doing an Olympic lift, that's part of, you know, protecting yourself from a safety perspective. But that the platform is built for it, right? Yeah. So I agree with you on that. But I think it's probably because I do it. That might be the reason that it really gets under your skin.
My goat.
Yeah. Okay, number 10. Speaking of equipment, you want to be aware of taking multiple pairs of dumbbells. At most,
go on.
You want to take no more than 2 pairs of dumbbells.
Is that so?
For a circuit that you're doing or for something that you're performing.
Is that like a socially acceptable number? Like what if I had 3? How would you feel about that?
Well, look, I think environment dictates some of this as well. I think in an empty gym or if there's not a lot of people working out, be my guest. Take a few extra pairs. But prime time in a busy time, 2 pairs of dumbbells is about all you want to take, or else you're just a hoarder. You know what I mean? And that's not very polite because you're not using all those dumbbells at the same time. So if you have 4 pairs of dumbbells over there, you're only using one of them. That means 3 sets are sitting around and they might only have that one set of that weight in the gym.
Yeah, good point.
You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Here's what I would say. Is it acceptable? Let's say you had 4 sets of dumbbells and I'm like, he's got the 15s. I really need the 15s for my next rep. Would it be all right for me to just come up, grab those weights, hit my, 5 shoulder press and then bounce?
If you ask.
Okay.
You say, hey, can I grab those for a quick set of 10?
Got you.
Can I work in on those 15s while you're doing some of those other exercises? That would be the polite way to approach that, I believe.
Got you. Like maybe knock on your door and then ask you out for dinner.
There's no door. we're exercising. But I think a good workaround for this though is if it's a little bit more of a crowded facility, there's usually options that you can use. So instead of picking 4 pairs of dumbbells, maybe you pick a pair of dumbbells, a kettlebell, and a medicine ball.
Yeah, you can actually potentially think about the combined weight of the dumbbells and perhaps use that combined weight and use like one dumbbell,
Yeah,
one kettlebell, for example. So let's say like you were doing like 35s or whatever, and you had 217 dumbbells, and then maybe you could do like an overhead press or whatever with a 35-pound kettlebell.
Yeah, I think from an etiquette perspective, that's the best way to approach it, so that if you had a circuit set up or a circuit as part of your workout program for that day, you can still get all of the things that you need. You just make some small modifications with the equipment. That's usually a little bit more polite.
Got you. Love that. Okay, we're going to keep it going. We've got like 4 more. This isn't like 4 bonus ones. So number 11 for me, pet peeve in the gym, is sticky drinks. Not like, I'm not policing who's having a sticky drink, because you don't know it's sticky until it's spilt on the floor. So actually, I think the key is, if you've got like a sticky drink, like a Celsius, for example, which obviously comes in a can, really easy to like knock over.
Happens all the time.
Happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
That is a real issue, especially in the summer, ants and all of those things. I think like if you've got like a drink that has, you know, a certain amount of stickiness to it, like not quite as sticky as honey, but maybe as sticky as like an energy drink, then if you can, like, transfer that to another bottle, something with a sealable lid.
Yeah.
You know?
What are some sticky drinks that you might bring to the gym, Louise?
I mean, sticky drinks, like sports drink, like a Gatorade maybe. I consider that kind of sticky. Sweet drinks, anything that really, you know, has a combination or has that level of like carbohydrates. So like a sports drink.
Yeah.
You know?
An amino acid drink.
Yeah, perhaps a pre-workout.
Yeah. Pre-workout's a popular one that you see in gyms all the time that people will spill. Tequila soda.
Tequila soda?
What
gym are you going to?
Hey, Hollywood's a little bit wild sometimes.
Damn.
Yeah. But I think, keeping a lid on that thing, something that screws tight, major key. And also, I would suggest not doing any glass bottles.
Oh.
I've seen that too. You know, glass bottles from like, you know, to be BPA free, and people are using those a little bit more. But I would avoid those in the gym, because if they do get cracked or banged, it can create a real issue for everyone else's safety in the area when they're, you know, crawling on the floor, doing a lunge, kneeling. So I would avoid that as well.
And segueing into keeping a lid on it, ladies, I'm going to throw this one out there. See-through yoga pants. So this is not a huge problem, because it depends on your like level of openness, but be super aware of the fact that most yoga pants are not designed for like high level performance activity. So maybe, you know, the fabric is sheer. You're not going to necessarily know unless somebody points it out. I always do like a yoga pant test if I'm like in, you know, a changing fitting room or whatever.
Do you?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
hilarious.
Just do the full, you know, full moon, whatever. Just check out, see what's going on back there. And just make sure you're covered, basically. Because I think there's nothing like more embarrassing than doing like an RDL and everybody seeing what your underwear looks like.
Sure.
So that's one for the ladies, like something to be super mindful of if you're really, you know, concerned about your modesty or whatever. But at the end of the day, your body, your business, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. But if for someone who is a little bit more modest, have you ever caught yourself like doing an RDL, realizing or forgetting, and then realizing that you had pants that were a little bit more sheer and having to find a workaround? What would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
I think thickness is the key.
Yeah.
Like I'm always looking when it comes to like yoga pants. I don't even think about yoga pants. I call them tights because in track and field they were always tights. They're always a thicker fabric. Obviously, I grew up in the UK, so it was thicker for warmth anyway. I'm always looking for performance fabrics that have a little bit more substance to them, so that are a little bit more opaque. And that are really long wearing, simple as that really. So if it feels like butter, that's great for, you know, yoga class, dimmed rooms, whatever. But when it comes to like the gym, just check it out, especially if you're really, you know, you really care about those things.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then live your best life, girl. That's all I can say.
Why not? Do you?
Exactly. Do you.
Okay.
Do you.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit for number 13. So something that we want to avoid in 2024 is over chattiness in the gym. Okay.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, Lou and I, if you don't know, we don't necessarily work out together all the time.
We don't talk.
Lou chats a lot when she trains, and I tend to like want to like have a little bit more of a focused environment for my own session where I can be in my own headspace. But that's neither here nor there. The reason we want to avoid over chattiness in the gym is for a few reasons. The first one is you want to make sure that you're able to get through your session efficiently and effectively, right? And something that we do as trainers is something called the talk test, right? And if someone can pass the talk test, which means that during their session, while they're doing an exercise, if they're able to maintain a full conversation, that means that their heart rate is below a certain threshold on average, and they're probably not working out intensely enough, right? So that's one reason that you want to avoid over chattiness. What could another reason be that you want to avoid?
I don't know, Eric, but you're looking in my direction.
Well, I think the other reason is like from an etiquette perspective, people on the phone, if they're standing next to you when they're on the treadmill and they're chatting on the phone, can be a little bit distracting and feel a little bit rude, right? When you're in a gym setting, like you shouldn't be talking on the phone under any circumstances because people are there to exercise and to focus. I think another one would be oftentimes if you're over chattiness through the text message as well. A lot of times people will monopolize a piece of equipment and they'll be sitting there texting or talking to a friend when you're waiting to be able to jump in and use that for your session. So I think over chattiness is something we want to avoid.
Speaking of over chattiness, who was the last person that got complained on in the gym for talking on their phone? Eric Strangis.
I don't
Can you
recall.
remember?
No.
Literally one of the most famous men in the world.
Oh my, can I tell this story?
Absolutely.
Oh man. Okay.
Sum it up. Wrap it up though.
All right. I might get canceled for this one. So I was in the gym where I worked. One of my coaches came and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, I have a complaint from a member. The person on the treadmill next to her is talking on the phone." And I said, "Okay." I said, usually in this circumstance, all you have to do, go up to the person who's on the phone, ask them politely to get off. Do you not feel comfortable having that conversation? Do you want me to do it so that you can kind of see how I would approach it and you can learn from it? They said, no. I said, okay, so like, what's the problem, dude? And he's like, well, the person on the phone that's standing next to her on the treadmill is Kanye West.
Brutal.
And I said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. You're going to go back out onto the floor. You're going to walk past that member and not say a thing. And we're both going to act like this conversation never happened.
That's nuts.
Because I don't want that heat.
Can you imagine trying to get Kanye off the phone in the gym? Impossible.
Oh,
you
my
cannot
gosh.
tell him anything.
Not a word.
He's the definition of rebel. He ain't going to
Nuts.
listen.
I avoided that at all costs.
He is not going to listen.
No gusto in me.
That's freaking brilliant. I love that. But then, obviously, this is so funny because this is not the first time Eric met Kanye West. The next time was in our friend's living room, wasn't it?
No, that would have been the third time.
The third time.
The second time I met Kanye West, also in a gym setting.
Oh, really?
Yes, but I'll save that story for another day.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. Bring it up now. And the 14th and final one,
Yeah.
eye contact. Eye contact is a really important thing. It's important for connection. It's important for rapport. It's important for relationship building. However, in the gym, I feel like there's a certain amount of time that is just unacceptable. Anything over 1.5 seconds of eye contact in the gym means one or two things. It means you're going to fight, or it means you're going to marry that person.
Okay.
You know?
Wasn't sure where we were headed there.
Like, I just feel like sometimes in the gym, do you ever get the feeling like you're being watched? Do you know?
I do not. Do
feel-
you?
Absolutely. And like, it was really interesting. So it's like, I remember actually like passing someone in the gym today and I was just like, when you feel like, oh, this could turn into a fight. If you lock eyes with the wrong person. But the thing is, this guy was a dude. Do you know what I mean? Big dude. And I was just like, oh, someone's got to look away.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Someone has to look away. 1.5 seconds, you kind of got to turn and divert your attention. Otherwise, you could easily get yourself into a little bit of like gym trickery.
Who, you could?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you're staring someone down in the gym for a little bit too long, then what happens next?
You have some like funny toxic masculine traits. You know what I mean?
You told me this the other day. I can't believe you're bringing it up on air.
That's funny. Like, you feel like you might get into a fist fight with a random guy in the gym if he looks at you for too long.
I'm just ready to go. I think what you're talking about, like man spreading, I think eye contact is another form of man spreading in the gym.
Sure.
And so therefore, like, you know, a person who's trying to take up space, perhaps assert dominance, is going to perhaps linger in their stares or their voyeurism just that little bit too long.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to intimidate somebody in the gym, especially if you want that piece of equipment or want that space that they're occupying.
Yeah, I've never considered that.
Yeah, I think like, you know, if you're feeling like somebody's watching you for whatever reason, like you just peel off, focus on you, do you. But then if you're a bit of a starer, also 1.5 seconds is your limit. Otherwise...
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, Louise is going to fight you.
Oh, I love it.
That's great. And I think that sums up the things to avoid in 2024.
So I didn't just want to wrap there. I wanted to play a quick game of most likely to.
Can I beat you in the game?
I'm not sure that there's a winner, but
okay.
You've seen this happen on social media, right? We close our eyes.
Okay.
Sam is going to read out, we're going to go through the 14 that we've just done.
Okay.
And we've got to point either to ourselves, or I'm going to point to you if I feel like you're most likely to, or if I'm most likely to. And obviously the viewers at home will get to see how well we know each other, what we actually think of one another. And we'll go from there. How about that?
Amazing.
Producer Sam, do you want to pull up a chair or something? Maybe a bench or something? Pop yourself in the middle here. Producer Sam, everyone.
Yeah. Woo!
Making your first podcast appearance.
Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay. Who's most likely to not clean up their equipment?
Eric.
Who's most likely to stand too close to the dumbbells?
Louise. Definitely Louise.
Who's most likely to not put a towel down on the bench?
Louise.
Who's most likely to leave dirty towels around the gym?
Eric.
Who's most likely to not ask permission when working in on a piece of equipment?
Louise.
Who's most likely to not wear shoes to the gym?
Louise.
Who's most likely to put their head where their butt goes on the bench?
Louise.
Who's most likely to drop weights?
Eric.
Who's most likely to take more than 2 sets of dumbbells at a time?
Eric.
Who's most likely to take a sticky drink to the gym?
Louise.
Who's most likely to wear see-through yoga pants to the gym?
Eric.
Who's most likely to be overly chatty at the gym?
Louise.
Who's most likely to engage in longer than necessary eye contact at the gym?
Eric.
And that's how we go. In summary, the gym is a space for everyone, but not everyone is going to make it a safe space for you. So be the gym goer that you'd like to encounter, and hopefully the good people will outweigh the bozos. And remember that you're paying the same rate to be there as everybody else. So don't be afraid to take up space and equipment. Just put it back where it came from when you're done with it. That concludes today's episode of Slay. Stay tuned for more empowering discussions on female health, fitness, and productivity. You can follow me at Louise Hazel on social media, and you can follow Eric at Eric Strangis. Check out the Slay brand at Slay Athletic. And don't forget to subscribe to the Slay podcast if you haven't done so already on Spotify. And leave us a review. You can also get the tools and resources from all of our podcasts on the Slay app. You can download it now for free from the App Store and join our online community and start slaying today.